Good morning and welcome to Bad Bad Hikes. I haven't said that while walking in a very long time. So come with me as I take a very easy walk while talking about some very hard walks. I'm walking on a very pedestrian trail in the middle of a city, so if you hear car noise, I'm sorry, but we can hear some birds, we can see some trees. I'm out for a walk, so I figured I could film my top 5 hardest mountains on the Appalachian Trail. So these are not going to be ordered from like least hard to hardest. I'm just going to order them how I got to them. If you're walking Nobo, you'll hit these in these order. If you're walking Sobo, you'll hit them in reverse. Ooh, which way? I think that connects me back. Okay, we'll go straight. This is literally like the dreamiest trail. Nice and flat, nice and shaded. We love it. Let's talk about some not so easy trails. So the first mountain on my list is Albert Mountain. Retrospect, probably wasn't one of the hardest mountains, but for me at the time, it was. So, Albert Mountain is the 100-mile mark on the Appalachian Trail. So it marks Nobo 100 miles in. This was the first mountain that you actually had to like rock scramble on. Like, I think it was the very first time I used my hands to help me hike on the AT. So when I was on it, it just felt like it was going on forever. It was raining and wet and the rocks were slippery, and I just had a very, very difficult time getting to the top. So that was my first hard mountain on the AT. Next, we take a big time jump to Three Ridges in Virginia. Again, this is all very situational, but that it is true for me, so it made the top 5. Three Ridges is a very hard climb, very, very rocky. I did it first thing in the morning, and again, it was raining. By the time I got to the top, it was thunderstorming and windy. I had my pack on in full blueberry mode. It was a whole thing. That, coupled with how rocky it was, made it to the top 5. Next, huge jump up to New Hampshire, Mount Madison. Oh my word. This was the hardest descent on the entire trail. Like, without a doubt, I think everybody who's ever hiked this section will believe me. It is the hardest descent if you're going Nobo. So essentially, you climb straight up a rock face. It was windy as all get out. It was so windy. It was like, hold on to your poles, don't move for a second so you don't literally get pushed over by the wind. Windy. And so once you got to the top and it was windy, going down was just a literal boulder field. Just like, imagine a field of boulders, that was it, but going like straight down. It was so hard because some of them were weebly and some of them were stable, and you had to like think about every single move, and your trekking poles were getting in the way, but if you put your trekking poles away, you couldn't stabilize yourself. It was so hard. So hard. That was one, like, it was like 1.5 miles took me like 3-4 hours. Like, oh my gosh, so hard, so hard. So playing some extra time going up and over Madison. Oh, I met with a fork in the road. Which way shall I choose? This way. Next is actually a section of mountains called the Wildcats, but I'm just talking about your first climb up the first peak in the Wildcats. And let me say, they are very appropriately named. It was wild. I mean, hold on to those rocks for dear life. Wild. I was so glad I had Irish with me at the time, because like one of us would go first and then like stand at the top, like the person at the bottom would be like, oh, like there's a hold on your right or move your foot here, and then the person would do the opposite, like from the top. So we were there to help each other. It was so difficult. I can't even call it a hike. It was a climb. We were climbing. I think I said in the video when we were actually up there, I felt like a bear just like climbing up this mountain. It's like, just, I feel like a bear just like climbing. It was insanely hard, and I was exhausted by the end of it. But you know, when you're on a thru hike, you gotta keep walking, you gotta keep going. Next on the list, not technically a mountain, but I think this should count, so I'm putting it in here. The Mousk Notch. If you did not know, the Mousk Notch is a 1 mile section of trail in Maine that consists of a jungle gym of boulders that you have to climb up and over and through caves, and it was a arm workout. It was so hard, so hard. Again, I was very thankful. At that point, I had both Daddy Llama and Irish with me, so there was like a group to help, a group to pass your bag to. If you can walk through there with somebody, 10 out of 10 would recommend. I would not recommend going through the Mousk Notch by yourself. Solely just to have people with you to help, give you a hand up, pass your bag over. It was absolutely insane. So Albert Mountain, Three Ridges, Mount Madison, Wildcats, and the Mousk Notch are my top 5 hardest mountains on the AT. I did not include Mount Katahdin. Mount Katahdin is hard. Everybody knows it's hard, and everybody knows Mount Katahdin. So, while yes, that was a very hard climb and a very hard descent, I didn't throw it in my top 5 because everybody already knows about it. So, those are my top 5. And also in this video, I consider having this be its own video, but it would be like 30 seconds long, so I thought I would tack it on to this one. But these little mini top 5 for you are my top 5 wows on trail, which if you didn't follow my hike, that's kind of the noise I would make when I got a really pretty view. So I do kind of like the meow wow wow. So here, mini top 5 are my top 5 wows of trail. Wow. 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 Oh, wow. Wow, good views. So I hope you enjoyed learning about the top 5 hardest mountain / wows on the Appalachian Trail. If you want more post-Appalachian Trail content, make sure to subscribe. I also have an Instagram account, but for now, happy trails!